welcome to Coffee with Stephen, the podcast where I talk about a topic relevant to performance testing and engineering in just 5 minutes. Today, it's okay to be a performance tester. So what am I talking about today? So as we talked about in the last episode, there is a big push in our industry for all of us to become performance engineers, whatever that means. And I think there are some side effects to that, and part of it is this pressure to become something that we don't necessarily understand what it is. And I think the word performance engineer means something different to everyone. So part of that is clarifying what you really mean by that. But there is another side effect, which is that we are potentially neglecting our proficiency at performance testing, the foundation skill set around that. So it's very important that we do performance testing right. As a really simple example, there's no point in automating some performance tests which are meaningless and spit out unintelligible results. There's absolutely no point. We haven't covered the basics. At the end of the day, and I'm sure I'm going to mention this many times, if we are not understanding or improving the response time, the capacity, and the stability of our software systems, then there's no point to what we're doing, right? So performance testers do a lot. Most of us start with a load testing tool, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a great way to start. At a certain point in time, you start to ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? And then you start getting involved in workload modeling, for example, to feed in, to understand the business context and get numbers and turn business understanding into actual numbers that you can run a test from. That's a huge skill and something that we have to continually work at. And test strategy. Well, understanding which tests you need to run to cover different kinds of risk. That's also important. Then you start to take it another step further. You might think, well, I'm building these load test assets. How can I do it better? How can I do it the most efficient way possible, build them in a maintainable way? And then you start to get better at analyzing results. So when I say data analysis, it could be results data, it could be workload modeling data, it could be monitoring data or logging data. All of it is a huge skill set and something that I'm continually working on all the time. At a certain point in time, we go from the black box and we try and move towards as white box as possible in our performance testing. So understanding, hey, we're testing a system, what's the business context? What's the architecture? So what are all the different components and how do they talk to each other? Really understanding that. And then getting involved in monitoring and logging. So monitoring from a system resource or operating system perspective, logging APM to understand the application performance and how that's going. And when you start to bring that together, then you can start helping to investigate and diagnose issues, which is a huge skill set and it has endless possibilities just in that alone. And then there's the softer skills. So being able to report and communicate well. So that could be anything from running a diagnosis meeting, where you're saying helping people to collaborate together and to focus their efforts on where they need to look next, and reporting. Even now, after 11 years, I am continually improving my exit reports and my strategy documents to make them simpler and easier to understand and to get to the point faster. Planning and managing time, also important, especially when you're working in a big project or program of work with tight deadlines, or maybe working with remote teams all around the world. There's a huge skill set around that as well. So that's just a taste of some of the things that we work on in performance testing. And there's a lot to master. I haven't mastered all this yet. Absolutely not. So I guess my point is there is a huge gap between good performance testing and bad performance testing. It's an absolute universe scale difference between the two. So there are no limits to how far you can take performance testing in itself. And I would say that the skills you pick up by pushing performance testing to its limits naturally bring you into performance engineering and performance architecture anyway. So I think it's absolutely the right way to go. And we should not be neglecting this foundation skill set, which is what we use to carry ourselves forward. So this is just my view. I would be keen to hear what you think. And as always, I will see you next time.